Hey there, Skullheads. I'm Snags.
And I'm old Silky.
Not Mr. Clean.
Mr. Clean. This is our first on location episode. We're all on separate desert islands.
Yeah, we're all calling in. We're all stranded on desert islands, and we are only able to take 10 albums each with us. So we're gonna discuss those. But first, why don't you cats hip us to the islands that you're on?
I'm on Death's Head Island.
Tell us
I've
about
got
it.
a small little tiki hut thing. I can see the ocean in any direction, and there's on the back side of my hut, there's an old guy that cooks cheeseburgers.
Oh, there you go. That's nice.
And there's a lot of beer around, but it's pretty it's pretty cold at night.
Ah, there you go.
So,
what about you, Mr. Clean? Tell us about your island.
Cold island, man. I never really thought about that because
I know his is pretty grim. Mine's going to be a lot better.
But. Yeah, so I'm on site here in Bikini Atoll, and this place is highly radioactive from all the nuclear bombs that were dropped on it during testing after World War II.
Right.
But it makes stuff grow like crazy. All that extra radiation. I am miraculously immune to radiation, but nice. I have airdropped in like strippers. They can stay for about 8 hours before their Geiger counters start going off.
Also, dial a whore.
And then they have to be like airlifted back off. The cool thing about a radioactive island is it can power at least 5-6 stacks of Marshall amplifiers that you would be proud of. And and there's an endless supply of just food. Just keeps washing up on pallets and
beer
and stuff and beer. Wow. And nuclear radiation powers refrigeration and everything I need for my super bachelor pad.
But if you leave, you'll turn into the Hulk and wreak havoc across.
No, I can't leave. That's the thing. I can't leave. Yeah. It's kind of a lonely existence at sometimes, but you know, got highs and lows, but mostly it's highs.
Yeah, at least you got dial a whore.
Nice.
Tell you what, a radioactive island, a weed plant grows like 30 feet tall.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Nice.
Have a bud drop off and knock you out. It's like a coconut.
That's perfect. So I'm on my island is called the Oasis Good Time Emporium, which
nice.
used to be a strip club in Atlanta. It got closed down, and so
it got closed down.
Oh, you didn't know that? Yeah,
up last in year. Tucker.
Yeah, not Tucker. It was off Peachtree Industrial.
Yeah, on the way to Tucker or something.
Yeah,
Norville.
Yeah, but what nobody knows is it actually didn't close down. It got transferred to a remote island.
It relocated.
And all the girls there know how to grow food and they know how to cook. So and grow weed. So I'm good there. And
very deserted.
And they know how to do that flying lip lock.
And micro, that too, and micro brew. So I got beer, weed, and I'm good to go. The only thing is, there's not fresh rotation. Like Mr. Clean gets a new rotation.
Oh, the dial a whore thing.
Yeah.
Well, beer, weed, vagina.
What else do you need?
Music.
And your top 10 albums.
Your top 10 albums.
Yeah, that's the only other thing. So let's see here. What order we want to go in? We want to start. Well, first of all, before we get into this, all you cats out there need to tell your friends about the fucking podcast. You need to if you're not following us on Spotify and you're not subscribed on YouTube, you got to get to pause right now and go do that, and then come back.
Yeah.
But you want me to go first, and then Mr. Clean, and then old Silky, and we'll just go album by album
that way, or whatever. Yeah. Well, I don't care.
I'll And here's the deal. I've got 10. This is probably, if you cats check out the Judas Priest episode that we did with Mr. Clean and the Tool episode. If you haven't, go check those out. Those are awesome. But Judas Priest episode, we each had to choose our top 10 Judas Priest songs.
Yep.
And that was really fucking difficult. And choosing your the 10 albums you're going to listen to for the rest of your life is even more difficult. So we all have honorable mention albums we'll get to after we go through our 10, but mine are not necessarily in any particular order, although I did save the top 3 for last. And but the rest, they're kind of in whatever kind of order. I wouldn't say Let There Be Rock is the first one I'm going to talk about. AC/DC. You can't. I couldn't go the rest of my life without being able to listen to some AC/DC. And if I'm gonna listen to AC/DC, it's gonna be fucking Bon Scott, number one.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you look at all the Bon Scott albums, back when I was in high school, I had this car we called the Porsche. I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast before.
Actually, I think the last episode we mentioned the Green Mantle.
Get into that, yeah. And so it's a beat up old Dodge B210, maxed out at 40 miles an hour, sounded like a lawnmower. It's my first car when I was 16, and I got one of those windshield stickers that people put on their Porsches, and it said Porsche, and that was on the window. And I had a little handheld cassette player
that rode proudly in between the seats.
Yeah,
and that was
all
the
this weed I'm smoking on the island. So yeah, the little handheld cassette player was a hi-fi, and one of the cassettes I had was a home recorded cassette, and I recorded old Silky's CD of Let There Be Rock on one side and Power Age on the other, and I played the shit out of that thing.
That was Mark Evans' last
there you go.
With AC/DC after allegedly getting into a bit of a fight with Angus, and Malcolm said, "You know what?
Him and Angus didn't get along." So
1977.
let's just lay down the tracks on this fucking masterpiece of an album. Go Down, fucking great song.
Oh yeah.
Dog Eat Dog. Oh my fucking God. When you talk about a combination of lyrics and AC/DC, they get those chord drum bass patterns locked in that just make you want to fucking jump around and smash shit. There's 2 of those songs on here. Dog Eat Dog is the first one. Just the way, and then Let There Be Rock, which is a classic,
Epic.
Bad Boy Boogie, another fucking classic. Overdose, classic. Crapsody in Blue, classic. The other make you want to go crazy, make you feel like you just smoked a pipe of crack. Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be.
Hell,
you know what I'm saying?
It's like being on this island,
Yeah, and then ends with the tribute to Fat Chicks Everywhere, a whole lot of Rosie.
Yeah.
If you're gonna get some Rosie, get a whole lot of it.
I know the Australian version actually had Problem Child on there.
Oh yeah,
great.
The international version had Problem Child. It did not have Crapsody in Blue.
Yeah.
Fuck. That's probably a better version. That's probably.
Problem Child ended up on.
Here's the deal. The first version that I just ran down for you cats, sorry, I wasn't looking that closely, was the Australian version. The international version is the US version. Yeah, and that has fucking Problem Child instead of Crapsody in Blue, which makes it an even better album. Fucking
Crapsody in Blue is hilarious.
Child.
Yeah. Problem Child was also on Dirty Deeds, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, there you go. Dirty Deeds, yeah, it was originally released on the Australian version of Dirty Deeds. I really think with Problem Child, Go Down, Dog Eat Dog, Let There Be Rock, Bad Boy Boogie. This is the one I had on that tape. Problem Child, Overdose, Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be, and a whole lot of holy fuck, man.
Yeah,
that's the quintessential. You can argue for Back in Black and Highway to Hell, but give me this one any day. This is.
I always like Power Age too.
Power Age is great. Yeah, it really is. Yeah, but Let There Be Rock. If I'm if I'm taking 10 albums to an island, one of them is going to be AC/DC, and that's going to be it. There's
one
my
question.
number 10, so to speak.
Can we visit your island? If that's like not on my list, can we at least like I can go visit Craig's island?
Well, we can do one of these video conference calls, and I'll play it for you.
Yeah. What I'm going to do, I'm going to
can't come to my island. That would then we're not trapped on deserted.
As we go along, I'm going to make a playlist of all of our 10. So there'll be a playlist in the ClickPit for all the.
Yeah, you can, but when you're on the island, you can't listen to the playlist anymore.
Yeah,
you can only,
We still need the playlist though.
Yeah. Right. All right. So
you want me to go next and then clean last?
No,
how do you want to do it?
Let's put the guest in the middle and then you wrap it up. Yeah. Okay. What, Mr. Clean? What do you got? What's your number 10, figuratively?
Yeah. So in no certain order, but I've done this exercise like about 20 times now. It's really hard to do. Like Snags has said, this is you only can take 10. And so I played a little game with myself yesterday. I was like, the plane is leaving for your deserted island in 10 minutes. You got to make your decision fast and grab these 10 albums. You've got to make it a really high pressure. So I put myself in that situation, and I didn't come up with much different than any of my other lists. But in no certain order, my first album on here is
don't name them all. Just give us one.
No. I'm going to give you just in no certain order, but the first one that's on my list.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Is Bad Motor Finger by Soundgarden.
Nice.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
I think that is. There's just this one. It's like watching like Shawshank Redemption or Goodfellas. You turn on the TV and it's on, and you got to listen and watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Bad Motor Finger does not.
Is that the one with Rusty Cage?
Yeah. Rusty Cage.
Mind Riot.
Mind Riot. I mean, Search You with My Good Eye Closed.
Yeah, buddy.
Slaves and Bulldozers. Outshined. I mean, Jesus Christ Pose.
Yeah.
Holy Water. New Damage. I mean, Drawing Flies is 2.5 minutes long, and it's just a blistering, awesome tune. Chris Cornell, he's just raw and sounds awesome on that album. Just everything on that. Every single song on that album I've listened to, hundreds of times. That's like an album, you listen to, and then you listen to it again and again and again, and so that's Soundgarden is one of my favorite bands of all time, and out of all their albums, that Bad Motor Finger is Bad Mamma Jamma.
Oh, it's excellent. That's that was a great record.
I had that on CD back in the 90s, back in the day. Silky hit me to this, but you could get this CD changer that went in your trunk, and you can load up like 4 CDs in there, and that was a big deal. From the front of the car, you could control which of the 4 CDs. And I remember driving around. I was specifically somewhere near Emory University. I'm just flying down the road, cranking that album back in the day.
And let me tell you, Kim Thayil, the guitar player for Soundgarden, there's nobody sound like that dude.
He's so underrated. You just don't hear about him doing anything, or
he's incredible though, and his style is just different. It sometimes can sound like a little Arabic type tones to it, and he's just he's integral part, just as important as anybody else in that band. But Chris Cornell, man, that dude, what a tragedy!
Dude's a whale.
Yeah. What a tragedy, man. That he sounds so good. When I was doing my research, I pulled up the soundtrack for the movie called
Singles,
and he has that song "Seasons" on there. That acoustic song "Seasons."
Yeah. Oh, it's incredible.
Dang, man, he's so good, man. He sounds so good.
We always joked about making a movie called Shingles.
Oh, there you go. Now you could write that, since you had Shingles last year.
I had Shingles before. That's where death metal came from. fucking hurts.
I was getting nonstop texts from this cat. It was like last
most
year
painful
sometime.
shit ever, dude.
It was like literally every couple hours. Ow, this hurts. This hurts.
Yeah.
Ow.
Oh, it's fucking
like for
horrible,
3
dude.
weeks or whatever. Yeah.
I think it was 5 weeks of hell, dude.
Oh fuck.
It's the most painful shit I can even begin to think of.
All right, Silky.
All right,
All
Silky,
right,
lay that shit on us, bros.
So I'm sure you guys did this with your 10, and I meant to kind of talk about this. Certain bands or things just seem to choose you. You might branch out and get into reggae for 2 years, but you eventually come back to certain styles of music that are just your core or who you are. And when I did these top 10, I really thought about not so much what I'm listening to right now or last year, albums that have been with you all the way back that you continue to go back to. They're like, long lost friends, or
that's what I had to stick to. Yeah, the ones that it's like, what do I actually listen to over and over again? And that's what I ended up choosing.
These albums by heart, every nuance. If somebody played it out of order, you'd be like, wait a minute, there's this song's supposed to be next. It's that kind of thing. So that's what these are. Like, I could rattle off these 10, but there's like 80 other albums that I was like, I want this one to,
Of course, yeah. But we'll rattle some of those off too. Yeah.
My number 10, I'm going to go with Mountain, their album Climbing from 1970. This was just Leslie West shreds throughout. Many road trips where this would come on random, and it'd be like, oh hell yeah, Mississippi Queen,
killer fucking tune. I remember hearing back in the 80s, this is going to be related, trust me, when those first two Motley Crue albums came out, and you got to understand that when those albums came out, we were in the middle of an onslaught of shitty new wave music. Everything had synthesizers. Everybody was, trying to, look pretty and shiny and glossy, and these badass street urchins from LA who looked like these just fucking gutter punk fuckers dropped this dirty fucking album, Too Fast for Love.
Too Fast for Love, yeah.
And I discovered that at a party. This is going to relate to Mountain, I promise. I discovered that at a party with a friend of mine, grown-ups party, and me and a friend of mine, they're like, oh, my son's not home, but go check out his album collection. So we're in there rooting through the albums, and we find this, and we're like, what year is this? Because we're thinking it's maybe the 70s or something, because this is
it almost looks like Sticky Fingers.
And we you see them on the back holding the candles and everything. We're like, these are badass motherfuckers. And we put it on, and it sounded as good as it looked. We're like, holy shit. And it said Leather Records. It was the original.
Wow.
I didn't have it. This fucker at one of my mom's friends
literally should have walked out the door with.
Yeah, I know. But that's what we were listening to. And then they come out with Shout at the Devil, just equally badass,
Right.
just raggedy punk metal. And then they drop this fucking single, Smoking in the Boys' Room, and we're like, what? And what they would have recorded, they were about to record Mississippi Queen for that album, Theater of Pain, and instead they do Smoking in the Boys. And I think the rest of Theater of Pain still wasn't as good. Nikki Sixx was all smacked out on the heroin.
Yeah.
But at least the single would have been bad. Could you imagine them tearing that apart?
I think Smoking in the Boys' Room really fit them.
No, it didn't. It's fucking terrible. Goofball cartoon bullshit. Yeah.
It is terrible, but I think it fit them.
It didn't. I don't. Not the Motley Crue of the first two albums that got abducted by aliens.
Yeah, I'm talking about who they turned into with the
who they turned into. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure, it fit that version. Yeah,
that fit that version because that's really the only decent song on that third album. But
it's not a good song. There's no decent songs on that third album. Mississippi Queen would have been a decent song on the third album. Anyways, great
maybe.
song. What else you got to say about Mountain? Sorry, I interrupted.
Mississippi Queen, Never in My Life. Every fucking song on this record, except for The Laird, which is a real soft, slow kind of what the fuck is this song on this album for? But it's on there, you know. But the whole album's amazing. Just
I
an
remember
epic
when we
tune.
got out of Auburn, when Steve graduated from Auburn, he and his buddy Ty, they went to Europe to do the we're going to stay in a hostel.
Steve's a friend of yours whose last
Yeah.
name we're not going to drop because
That's right.
I don't know if he wants to be associated with all this shit we're saying on
No, probably not.
a buddy of yours, yes.
But he came back from Amsterdam with some weed and the Mountain CD, and that was the first time I had heard like Mountain. And I was like, this is some jam up shit. And he found it at a record store like in England or something. I mean, it was
nice.
It was so cool.
It's just balls out fucking ripping. I love that record. It's
I'm going to have to go back and listen to this. I'm not as familiar with it. I'll have to jam that
it's
tomorrow.
kind of a deep cut record, but when you jam it, you're like, holy, every song is great. And then there's like a really slow song that's like, what?
What's the first song? What's the first song on that album?
Is Mississippi Queen.
I think Steve brought back a different Mountain album.
It might have been a greatest hits.
There's one like Nantucket Sleigh Ride that was.
That's what it was. That album he brought. That's the one he brought back. That's awesome. That album is great.
Yeah, Mountain Climbing's their first one, and Leslie West is just on fire with that record. It's
Nantucket Sleigh Ride. Now remember that's the one he brought back, and I'd never heard it before. And the first song on there is Jam Up, man. It's grooving.
I do have a Mountain playlist that I made. I'll have to crank it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, we got 27 more albums to go through.
Yeah, let's keep going. So my next album, my next album. I think people just listen to this podcast for my side ramblings about Motley Crue.
Yeah, let's steal the spotlight and talk about another band. Go ahead.
Motley Crue is not on any of my honorable mentions or anything. All right. Funhouse is my next album by the Stooges.
Excellent.
Fucking one thing I kind of learned about myself making this list is I'm mainly a rock and roll guy. I do love punk rock. I like blues. I like jazz. But most of my albums are rock and roll. But Funhouse is representing the punk genre here on this list. And suitably so, because it's really like the second punk album ever after the Stooges' first album, The Stooges. Recorded in 1970, right around the time the Beatles are breaking up, and it's a classic fucking punk album, just badass. It's got this bounce and rhythm to it that more so than any of the other Stooges albums. These real simple fucking riffs that Ron Asheton would come up with, and Dave Alexander's just laying in this rubbery kind of bass. That humming right there represented it exactly.
I thought you started playing the record.
Yeah. Fucking Down on the Street, killer song.
That's the one there, dude.
Yeah. These are all the one, man. Loose. I'm loose.
Yeah.
TVI, got a TVI on you, babe. Dirt, fucking killer. Yeah. I'm sure there was a local grunge band in the early 90s called Dirt. You remember them, Silky?
I do, but I don't know that I could like rattle off anything they did. I do remember them.
My first grunge show, and I didn't go to too many because when it was happening, I was irritated with it and I didn't like it because I'm an iconoclast. I pretty much have to disagree with everything that's popular. But I worked with this girl at this health food store, and she dragged me to see this band called Dirt. It was a local band, and they were opening up for this fat fuck named Tad. You remember Tad?
Yes, I do.
So Dirt opened for Tad, so I got to see Dirt and Tad at the Masquerade way back when.
That's probably the smallest amount of letters for two bands ever in one concert.
Right. I remember hearing some story about, I think it's one of those Nirvana biographies where Kurt and I don't know if Dave was in the band yet, but him and Chris and whoever with the drummer, they're doing a tour with Tad, and they're all in like a little Volkswagen van, and Tad kept farting the whole time.
Wow.
But anyways, I'm pretty sure Dirt named their band after this song. 1970, fucking killer song.
Yeah, I think this came out in 69. I think they fired this right out, like right after.
It was released on July 7th, 1970.
Oh, 70. Okay.
Yeah.
Crazy,
fucking 1970, renamed I Feel Good, I think, when the Damned covered it, because 1970s, in the late 70s, you didn't want to name something after the hippie era. Funhouse, which is another awesome one. LA Blues, which is a good song. Just a masterpiece. Really, 7 amazing songs. 6 of them, which are just absolute classic Stooges songs that you can't do without.
Yeah, Down on the Street will forever be on any Stooges collection. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think this was the debut of what's his name? Steve McKay on saxophone, who ended up playing with them forever after that.
Right.
Including the reunion, when they did the reunion. Just badass punk rock, killer grooves with a wailing, out of control saxophone, like Charlie Parker sitting in with the Ramones or something. It's just crazy. Mm-hmm. Good shit. Couldn't do without it. Have to be on my deserted island.
That's awesome, man. So
yeah.
I guess I'm up.
Yeah.
You're up.
Make it happen.
Hit us.
Well, I was, I like one of my favorite singers is Ronnie James Dio. He can sing his ass off, as you know.
Yeah, listen to our very first episode. That's Dio.
One of my favorite guitar players, Tony Iommi.
I know where you're going.
Bands is Black Sabbath.
I thought about putting this album on mine.
Maybe not. But I've got the Mob Rules.
Yeah,
in my top 10. It's my favorite.
I thought about it.
It's my favorite Black Sabbath album.
It's amazing.
I don't have Ozzy in my top 10. I love freaking Ozzy. I love every Black Sabbath. The top first 7 albums. With Ozzy and 6 or 7. But man, something about that Mob Rules. I remember that when in high school. Just I had my my jam box, and I'd record whatever came on 96 Rock or whatever, and
right,
and Voodoo was on my list, man.
Yeah, man,
play Voodoo.
But I mean, you are
cool, but that's cool. It's all right.
It's so freaking good, man. That whole album.
Writing that on my desk.
Everything in that album.
Turn Up the Night is like my favorite off of that record. It's
Sign of the Southern Cross, Voodoo, Country Girl.
The whole album.
Good songs.
Turn Up the Night just rips, right? It just grabs your fucking head, right? First opening.
When I was in high school,
E5150.
Yeah,
that's into the Mob Rules. I mean, that's just like makes your hair stand up on the back of your neck. I mean, it's
no, it does.
Yeah, exactly.
It does. I told this story in the first episode when we did about Dio, but just in case you haven't heard that episode, you got to hear it. So I'm sitting in high school, and on my desk I wrote, "You are a fool, but that's cool. It's all right." And then, there's a bunch of other kids that sit in that desk during different periods during the day. I come back the next day, and in girls' handwriting, there's somebody wrote, "What does that even mean?"
Oh my God. Fuck off. That's hilarious.
Hilarious.
Yeah, but that's Heaven and Hell is a really good one. I mean, other Ronnie James Dio, they came out, I think, back to back, but man, that Mob Rules. And then the album cover back then was scary looking, because you're like, oh shit, man, that.
Yeah.
Scary,
it's like an old torture England, you know.
They saw like graveyard with some witch standing out in the middle of it or something with a church in the
No,
background.
it's like all these hooded monk things and like this tarp that's covered in blood and they like where they whip people.
Somebody wrote Mob Rules on it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's rough,
Yeah.
man, but
it's an amazing album.
But yeah, that made my top 10 for sure.
That's an honorable mention for me for sure. That's just fucking amazing album.
It really is. The thing with that record, Mob Rules, that was it for Dio for a while, and you know, you had those first two records, and you know, they did that live album, Live Evil, and then Dio was out for a while. But anyway, so my number 9 is ZZ Top's first album, 1971. Just heavy blues, rock, kind of right in there with Mountain. Mountain was 70. This is 71. Just definitely channeling all your Texas blues greats. And this makes me think of riding up to Lake Lanier with my dad to go water skiing and stuff on the boat and stuff. And I had all these ZZ Top records or on cassette. I had the first like 5 or 6, and I would always put in ZZ Top was an easy band that you could put on, and the old man would be fine with it. You know?
Yeah, he wasn't going to listen to Shout at the Devil.
Yeah, he wasn't listening to Mob Rules.
Probably not.
No.
So what hip us to the tracks on the first ZZ Top slab?
Oh, that had like Neighbor. Let me pull it up, because that's you had Somebody Else Been Shaking Your Tree. Their original song, Brown Sugar, not to be confused with the Stones. Squank, Going Down to Mexico. Old Man is a great tune on here. Neighbor, which also I mentioned a really obscure band came out in 1970 called they were called Raven, and they, on their first album, they do Neighbor, and I don't know if ZZ Top took it from them or they took it from ZZ Top.
So this is not the speed metal cats from Newcastle, England, who wore hockey masks. This is
no, that's a different Raven. But Backdoor Love Affair is on here. This was just such a good album. Rio Grande Mud, the next one, is great. This had just more of that blues, stuff that Billy Gibbons was really obsessed with. So,
was that the name of the album? Just ZZ Top?
ZZ Top's first album. That's the name.
Yeah.
That's the name of the record.
Man, they were awesome, man. Those old ZZ Top. Even when I got in a car accident listening to LaGrange.
I was going to bring that up.
Man.
So Mr. Clean can't listen to LaGrange because he has post-traumatic stress disorder.
Oh, shit.
No.
Yeah.
I can listen to it. I just can't listen to it without thinking about, getting smashed.
I just remember cranking that one time, and you were like, "Oh man, I can't listen to this."
That's rough.
All right, who's next?
You're up, Snags.
Okay, my next album is Mississippi John Hurt, the complete studio recordings. Got to have some blues on my desert island. Some kind of real folk blues, country blues, Delta blues, as they call it. Mississippi John Hurt is just my go-to. It's almost it's interesting because if I'm stressed out and I want to be soothed, there's 2 ways I can go. I can drop some Slayer, and then I know other people are stressed out too, and it really relaxes me. It's like, okay, I'm not the only one who fucking feels like the world is shit.
I think I see some foreshadowing there.
Well, Mississippi John Hurt, I will weigh in on this. He is like that first breeze of cool air on a hot day.
Well, the way you put it that I thought really nailed it is he's like a cold beer out on a lake.
Yeah, that first sip.
Yeah, and you're just out on a lake.
Just comes down, man.
And so the other way you can go is for something mellow. And for me, it's just almost spiritual. Sometimes if I'm frazzled and I'm not in the speed metal frame of mind, I'll put on complete studio recordings and specifically this album, and I put it on repeat, and I'll just have it on in the background. Payday, Candyman, Karina, Coffee Blues was talking about Maxwell House, Good to the Last Drop as a metaphor, which is, I mean, the lyrics on this are hilarious. We did a Mississippi John Hurt episode, and there's a lot of obviously sexual innuendo, and there's a lot of really dark shit. Let the Mermaids Flirt with Me is about his corpse being chunked in the ocean.
Yeah, he's got a song called Ain't No Telling where he's talking about this girl and she's, don't get caught. There ain't no telling what she might do. She may cut you, may starve you too.
Yeah.
Ain't no telling what she might do.
It's got a song called You've Gotta Die, which sounds like a Slayer title, but when you listen to it, it's just real mellow. You gotta die.
Yeah. I gotta listen to some old Mississippi John Hurt.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
And his finger picking style is kind of like Robert Johnson, where you think you're listening to two guitar players. Just amazing. It's just really mellow, soothing, and his voice is really laid back, and it's just good. It's like a cool beer out on a lake on a summer day.
Robert Johnson too.
Yeah, Robert he's great.
Yeah, Robert Johnson is that's who I would
take with you to the My go-to is Mississippi John Hurt, so that's it. Complete studio recordings. That's my third one mentioned so far. So
okay, well, I'll pick it up here. Lane Staley.
I knew you were going to include these cats.
This is great.
You kind of knew from this album, my top 10 Facelift, that it wasn't going to end well. But that album, the very first album from Alice in Chains, Facelift, is freaking incredible. It has so many good songs from, obviously on the radio. They were playing Man in the Box, which is a great song. But the other songs on there are, I don't know, they're heavy. They're some of the best of the grunge era.
Yeah, they kind of got overshadowed, but man, that first album is flawless.
It's Sea of Sorrow.
All the Lane Staley stuff is great.
I can't remember
every song
Sunshine.
On that record is good.
There's not a bad song on that record, and there's a lot of negative buzz coming out of Lane Staley, and you kind of knew, like I said, that it wasn't going to end well. I read the couple different Alice in Chains, stories, biographies or whatever. And it's terrible, how he just was so hooked on that, on that heroin that he could not, and he knew it. He knew what was going to happen to him. And he just wrote it right down to the end.
I think he literally told people, didn't he? Just like, I know,
people,
don't bother me about it. I know how it's going to end.
I remember hearing of his death, and the DJ said that he was found by an electrician in the backyard looking through a back window and seeing his dead body, and said that the guy had been in there for 2 weeks. Yeah. And he's like, and the DJ said, now think about your day to day and who's going on around in your life. Could you lay in your room and not call anyone and lay there for 2 weeks before somebody came and found you? A complete stranger. Most of us have family that check on us every day or something. And that stuck with me, hearing that.
Yeah. It's a tragic story, but that first album, I mean, it's just culmination of just the times and the different people that were in that band. They were so talented. Jerry Cantrell, he's really awesome playing guitar, singing. But Lane Staley, man, he one of the best voices. And that first album, Facelift, it was jamming, man. I wore that thing out.
Oh yeah, yeah. We all did.
His death inspired one of Metallica's best albums, Death Magnetic. James Hetfield specifically said that was inspired by the death of Lane Staley.
That takes me back to working at Tower Records, and Nevermind had come out. We watched that blow up, and Soundgarden's the second it was before Bad Motorfinger, Love You Live or something like that. That's not.
Is that the one with Loud Love on it?
Loud Love. Yeah. That album, I don't look that up because I'm not saying the name of it right. But those were just huge records. And they were current. They were brand new. And people would come in and be like, hey, and you're shoving Beastie Boys, Check Your Head at them. Or, it was just the best time in and around music. Everything was so new. In just like 8 months of 90 to 91, epic records all came out back to back. It was like a renaissance of music. But Facelift was great. That was a great record.
I concur.
All right. Great Silky, record. Lay it on us. What's your next one?
So my number 8, I had to go with Rainbow Rising. Dio's second album with Rainbow, possibly one of the greatest albums ever. You got Stargazer, Terror Woman, Starstruck, Run with the Wolf. It only had 6 songs, but god damn, just epic.
That was all 6 of them?
No. Run with the Wolf, Starstruck, Terror Woman, Stargazer, A Light in the Black, and Do You Close Your Eyes?
Nice. Yeah, that's a good fucking album.
That whole album. I mean, it's good tight half hour, and you're like, fuck, put it on again. So many memories. A lot of these records, I noticed just putting it together. Most of the stuff is from the 70s, but there was a good, we didn't have a TV, so we had the stereo. And so I think to this day, that's why I'm so obsessed with music. Cause, back in the day, that was the only, thing we had, so, but yeah, Rainbow Rising, that was my, number 8.
Cool. What you got, Mr. Clean?
You're next.
Oh, I'm next. I gotta lay off that weed on my island.
Yeah, for fuck's sake.
Your Skull Island, you got the skull bong? Is that correct?
Something like that. All right, so I do have a bong.
It was Louder Than Love, Mr. Clean. Louder Than Love.
Louder Than Love, yeah.
That's right.
I do in real life have a bong that is shaped like a skull, but my island is not Skull Island.
But you never use it.
I do too, about once a month.
He was trying to,
I resemble that remark.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, I don't inhale. All right.
All right, Bill.
My next album is Fair Warning by Van Halen. I can't go the rest of my life without listening to Eddie. I mean, come on.
Fair Warning is my favorite of all those 6.
Oh yeah, and I listen. Some of these I listened to once again, just to make sure. And this was one of them. And I was like, good fucking God, man. I have to have Van Halen with me. The first album is great, but it's a little bit like I've heard it so much, and I don't know. This album to me is the apex of Van Halen's existence. Mean Street with that just amazing introduction.
Oh my God. Mean Street.
Or whatever.
Can't even do it.
Sounded just like it. Dirty Movies, which is a fun Remember when that girl was prom queen? You know, David Lee Roth's fucking lyrics and banter are just so awesome. Center Swing. Hear About It Later. Deep cut, great, just fucking songwriting.
Hear
About it later.
That's the end of side
I
one.
don't wanna,
And
baby.
side
I don't
two-
wanna.
Side two is like putting the fucking lawnmower to your face, you know.
Unchained. Push
Oh.
comes to shove. So This Is Love. There's a if you look up So This Is Love on YouTube, there's a rare video they did where they're at some kind of park and there's these fake dinosaurs at this park, some amusement park, and they're just jumping around miming for This Is Love. Kind of funny to watch. Sunday Afternoon in the Park, which is unofficially that was one of Eddie's early experiments with keyboards, although they didn't mention that in the liner notes, but that was keyboards. And then One Foot Out the Door, which is kind of a keyboard song, Dirty Dave, fucking soulful vocals on it, kind of different from I'll Wait or Jump, but just a great fucking album, man. Classic. Couldn't go without it. Has to come with me to the island.
No, I love that you guys are adding different stuff because so far you guys have both said some that I'm like, so
that's in your honorable mentions.
Idea.
Yeah, albums you will miss, but not me. I'll be fucking listening to it every day.
Right on.
So what was your first one? Let There Be Rock?
Yeah, he Let There Be Rock.
Well, Craig, I gotta snags. So my bad.
That's all right.
We can edit that.
That's fine.
Nah. So I have to, I love that Let There Be Rock, and I love me some Bon Scott. But that
I know what you're gonna say.
AC/DC, Back in Black.
Yeah, that's a killer fucking album.
Yeah.
It's just a masterpiece.
Yes, it is.
And it's a bigger masterpiece than just that. Besides, every single song on Back in Black is just a major hit and just awesome. But can you imagine the pressure of being, the dude that's filling in for Bon Scott and being Brian Johnson? And it's like we're gonna keep going. Some bands, they never recover from losing, a key person, much less the lead singer.
Yeah.
And
there's a bit of a controversy because these two albums, Highway to Hell had come out, and then Bon dies in February, and Back in Black came out in April of '80. And
there's some theories that they use some of Bon Scott's lyrics and credited Brian Johnson. They may or may not, but performance wise, he knocks it out of the park. And you know, who knows how much of that he wrote or didn't write, but it's still a masterpiece album. He just fucking nailed it.
It's probably the greatest metal album ever.
I was
not
in
in my
high
opinion
school
because it's not on my top 10, but it is an amazing fucking album.
I mean, the first thing you hear is the bells. The first thing you hear is the bell ringing. And then it just goes, it's just like, holy shit. We used to just play this album over and over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the sexual innuendos in the songs where you're already, you're just horny as shit that age of your life. And there's let me put my love into you.
Yeah,
is that the dog a bone?
Is that about Chef trying to make
giving the dog a bone? Come on, man! It's just like
we're not dog a bone.
And one of the best drinking songs ever. Have a drink on me. Holy shit!
Yeah,
that's a good just like we're at the bar, we are throwing down. This is the most fun drinking song ever. So yeah, that's one of my all-timers, man. I'll just, we never could get enough of the Back in Black.
I mean, you just play it and then you go back. I remember we went to we had it was like a baseball little league thing we were at, and some kid's dad picked all of us up in a van, and the dude, was like a baseball cap and a beard, and he let all the kids pile in, and he let me sit up front, and he pops in this cassette, and it's Back in Black. And it's funny, as I look back, I'm like, that was brand new. This was 80, 81. I mean, I don't think For Those About to Rock had come out yet. And so I think this was a brand new cassette at the time. And I was so impressed that this kid's dad was listening to AC/DC,
And For Those About to Rock was not a bad follow-up either.
No.
That freaking album. That's the first time I saw them, was that tour.
Oh yeah, Inject the Venom, COD. Fuck.
COD, man.
Get out of here.
Dog, man, that was some good rocking right then.
Yeah, that's a good album.
Although my favorite AC/DC song is still It's a Long Way to the Top, If You Gotta Rock and Roll. That song just makes me happy.
Yeah.
Was that the one with the bagpipes?
Bagpipes, yeah.
Talking about being on the road, getting screwed, getting underpaid, all the lights.
To the top if you want to rock and roll.
In a van,
Yeah, dude.
Yep.
Coming from the streets.
That's awesome. So my number 7 is Motorhead, Ace of Spades, 1980. Lemmy is God. Just that there's really you can insert any Motorhead album in that spot, but I had to go with Ace of Spades. I was torn between Orgasmatron and Ace of Spades, but that pound for pound, Ace of Spades is just epic. So
Lemmy is the Messiah.
It's really
there's just no way around it.
There's nothing else really to say. I don't need to give a reason.
That's right. You don't understand it. Fuck off.
Fuck off. Lemmy is God. That's my comment on this album.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the fucking songs on that album.
Chase is Better Than the Catch is one of my favorites. Bite the Bullet, Into Chase is Better Than the Catch. The Hammer. Of course, that's the last song, but Ace
Love Me Like a Reptile.
Love Me Like a Reptile. And who doesn't want to be loved like a reptile?
Love Me Like a Reptile is one of the best song titles ever.
Yeah.
We Are the Road Crew. We are the Road Crew.
Yeah.
Jailbait.
Jailbait's
Hammer.
Yeah.
Too late. Fast and Loose. And the production on this album is awesome. There's like this some kind of rattle percussion instrument that gets thrown in there, and it's just so fucking tight. The band is it's them at their apex. The classic lineup at their absolute best. It's the best album of all time, in my opinion.
I love Iron Fist for the kind of obscurity thing.
Iron Fist is a great album.
It's so good.
So is Overkill. So is Bomber. It's really hard to choose, but if you're gonna pick a Motorhead album, it's gonna be that one. It's just
I was leaning on Orgasmatron, and then I thought about Overkill, and I'm like, dude, just Ace of Spades. So that's my number 7.
All right. So my next one is Paul's Boutique. Gotta have. I can't not have a hip hop album on my desert island. And if I'm gonna have one, it's gonna be, in my opinion, the masterpiece of all hip hop albums. Beastie Boys, Paul's Boutique, just fucking incredible.
I love Check Your Head more, but this is fantastic. There's so many good tracks on Johnny Royale.
The thing about Paul's Boutique is it was right before all these artists realized they could charge out the wazoo for sampling, and people, you just contact somebody or even not contact them and just use the fucking sample.
Yeah. And
nobody would. And there's the production on this with the sampling and everything is just so fucking good. To All the Girls starts out with the mellow. To all the Puerto Rican girls, it probably would be considered politically incorrect now. All the Jamaican girls, all the Upper East Side moobas. Shake Your Rump, just fucking badass funk, man. Shake your rump.
I was looking down the barrel of a gun.
Yeah,
No,
looking
that's-
down the barrel of a gun. Another one that they'd probably not like these days. Fucking son of a gun. 5-piece chicken dinner. Got a little banjo.
Mhm.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It's just so many killer fucking tunes on here.
A rap song about the dudes that got thrown in the fire.
Yeah.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
It's fucking
That's,
awesome, dude.
that's the album that would like be on in the Green Manalishi as we rode around Atlanta.
Yeah. My little Datsun with the Porsche sticker was called the Green Manalishi. Yeah.
So who had him thrown in the fire?
Oh, you're going back to the Bible. I don't remember.
You're asking Bible shit? I have no idea, dude.
King
I just know.
That's a cool name, man.
Who did?
My name is King Nebuchadnezzar.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's probably in the lyrics somewhere.
But we would ride around Atlanta like during the Indian summer. The leaves are changing, the winds, just the best time.
Back in the
cruising
day.
around. Yeah.
Not a care in the world,
No.
Just who you gonna throw an egg at, or
let's go to Wendy's, get that super salad,
or let's go to your dad's girlfriend's condo and sneak in with the fucking garage door opener from when you were house sitting, and then light off firecrackers in the hallway. That shit like that.
Yeah. Well, that was Arthur got us busted. You and I were covert.
We were total professionals, but our friend Arthur got us busted on that one.
We jump in the elevator and Arthur hits every fucking button.
And the elevator starts going up.
Fuck.
And people thought gunshots were going off because we put we put a firecracker under a door knocker, and that shit went loud as a brass door.
It was an M80 in a narrow hallway, so it sounded
something like that. Yeah.
Half the building went
the good old days.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Clean.
What's next?
Yeah, so
hit us with your 6.
Yeah, so it's not my favorite band, but as far as like an album, I gotta go with my my desert island. I'm taking Moving Pictures.
Oh yeah. Good fucking album.
My album, my island. Alex Lifeson, man, that's the most underrated guitar player on the planet.
Oh, he's
that dude can play anything. Yep. And I mean, the guitar solos and stuff that are on that album are just nuts. And I even saw like an interview with him recently talking about how freaking hard it was to play some of those songs. He's like, we were so technical, and some of those guitar work that I had to do was so freaking difficult. And I would dread, some of the live, like when they would come out with what's the playlist for, the set list for a concert, be like, oh shit,
Yeah.
My fingers are going to be worn out by the time I'm done with this album. But I mean, obviously from the intro song, Tom Sawyer, I mean, that's all of us when we were young growing up. Everybody knew that song. Everybody loved that song. Everybody loved the drum solo, at the drum.
YYZ. Yeah.
And then
Neil Peart, man, fucking amazing.
Limelight, Vital Signs, Witch Hunt.
Vital Signs and Witch Hunt. Oh.
YYZ, don't forget YYZ.
No, I mean, YYZ.
Red Marsh,
the airport code for Toronto.
Yeah.
And because I've flown into YYZ quite a few times. I used to do a lot of work up there, and I was always like, wow, I'm going to YYZ, man. Throw some Rush on. Back on the iPod, back in those days. The Discman. But Rush Moving Pictures is a masterpiece of an album, and
really is.
They totally killed that one out of the park. And it's
I caught him on the very next tour. I saw him on Signals and Grace Under Pressure tours. Just amazing. Yep. They were really good.
I saw Signals. I saw the one after that, Signals also, which is another really, really good album. But they're just so tight.
Signals
so
was
good.
The first time I saw them.
But yeah,
I don't know if it was at the Omni or up in Maryland.
I don't know where you saw him. I saw him at the Omni. Mr. Clean and I discovered we've been at a lot of the same concerts.
Yeah,
I might have seen
probably getting the same secondhand smoke.
I might have seen.
It always smelled like weed in there.
I might have seen Signals up at the Meriwether Post Pavilion in Maryland.
I tell you what, the Rush concert, when it gets to like the end of the show, it's like someone pulled the cord out, man. They're like ready to move on to the next stop. They don't do a whole lot of improvising or, oh, we're going to really play with the crowd and we're going to play some more songs or something like that. Nope. It's boom, we're out.
Yep.
Old Silky and I saw the Ramones on their very last tour in the mid '90s, and they hit the stage, they fucking clocked out those songs, and they took the fuck off.
Yeah, they played 38 songs and good night. And
yeah, they played 38 songs in 25 minutes, and
yeah,
it was great though. It's how punk show's supposed to be.
I will say, by the end of the Ramones, man, you were like, "Fuck, where's my?"
Oh yeah, they blow your fucking face off in the process. Yeah. But yeah, Rush is another no nonsense band, totally opposite of the punk spectrum, but no nonsense, especially in the early '80s. They trimmed down the the kind of long 20-minute song, La Via Strangiata stuff. And,
I would say Moving Pictures was like they'd left Hemispheres and the kind of concept album, and Moving Pictures was more of a radio friendly thing without selling out.
They just trimmed it down. Yeah,
trimmed it down, and
a lot of that was happening in the '80s. Bands were kind of
a stellar record,
in
though.
their
Holy shit, man!
Approach a bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Silky.
Lay it on us, bros.
So my next number 6 is Black Sabbath's Heaven and Hell album, 1980.
The other Dio album.
Yeah, and I love that Mr. Clean chose Mob Rules. I was afraid that we have yet to have an overlap.
We will. We will have one.
I think so.
We will.
No, I know.
I love it. I love it. Heaven and Hell. Dio takes the reins from Ozzy. Towards the end of Ozzy's tenure, I think everyone was just drugged out, hungover, and tired. And I think Dio came in. Geezer gets a break because Dio writes his own songs, and Geezer was happy to have somebody else do the lyrics. And I just think, as I'm always an Ozzy man with Sabbath, but I love those Dio records with Sabbath, and I feel that Dio was a good shot in the arm, adrenaline. I think Tony maybe struggled with Ozzy in the band, and with Dio, I think Tony kind of found some riffs again. It just seems that way.
Read us off some tracks off that one.
Yeah, if you play Never Say Die and then Heaven and Hell, the energy, it's but Neon Nights, Children of the Sea, I think is the first song that they
That's the first song they ever wrote. Yeah. When they were in LA. Yeah.
Lady Evil, Heaven and Hell, which they would turn into like a 20-minute jam live. Fucking just amazing song. Wishing Well, Die Young, which that's a great one. Walk Away and Lonely Is the Word. Just 8 songs, but holy shit, man. Heaven and Hell, you just can't fuck with it. The only album to rival it is Mob Rules,
yeah. And the drumming on Heaven and Hell is just insane. Bill Ward, that was his last album.
Yeah.
And I remember he was totally alcoholed out of his mind at that point. And I remember
he checked himself in. I think one of his parents had passed, and he really never got over being the one that kicked out Ozzy out of the band. He really took that hard. Bill Ward, anytime you see him talk, he's just such a nice guy. So I think he really took that bad. But yeah, he checked out, and then they got Vinny Appice, and I think that was just a tremendous shot in the arm as well. You got two Americans in the band. Black Sabbath was always a British band, and it's interesting that they looked to Vinny Appice to bring him into the tour.
So
that's-
Bill Ward's drumming on that album is incredible, and I remember reading an interview with him, and he was saying people didn't believe he was the drummer on that album because it was so fucking good. It's just like this out of control, furious drumming.
That's funny.
And he said, I definitely was the drummer. He said, I don't remember much of it, but I know for sure that I was the drummer.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So Heaven and Hell, 1980. I was 10 years old, and I would go over to my buddy Scott Swain's house, and he had recently moved his bedroom down into the basement, and so he had this whole rec room type bedroom that was the size of the rest of the house. So he had all his posters up in one corner, and his mom had a pool table down there. So you'd go over and spend the night, and we'd be playing pool all night, cranking the living shit out of his record collection. And it was soundproofed upstairs. So as loud as you got it, I'm like, dude, how is your mom not down here ripping us a new ass at 2 a.m? And you couldn't hear it. You'd go upstairs and shut the door and stand in the kitchen. You couldn't hear it. And then you'd open the door and it'd be, booming loud. But we would sneak out of the house and just roam around the neighborhood with our little boom box, playing like Van Halen 1 and shit, walking through the neighborhood. Great memories with Heaven and Hell, that record. So that was my number 6.
Dig it. That's a killer fucking album. So my next one, I have to have at least one jazz album on my island, and if I'm only gonna pick one jazz album, it's gonna be "The Shape of Jazz to Come" by Ornette Coleman. Ornette Coleman was this crazy fucking cat who played saxophone, and he had this little plastic saxophone he bought from a dime store or something. And he gets famous, and they want him to play on like a real saxophone, and he tried, but he just didn't like it. So he played for quite a while on this made these classic albums with his squeaky, cheap plastic fucking saxophone.
That's hysterical.
And he was big on playing outside of the scales. So if you know anything about music, whatever key you're in, there's certain notes that you can play, and other notes sound out of tune. And he had this music theory he called harmolodics, where it's all fair game, and would just some of the crazy fucking jazz you'd hear on like those Tom and Jerry cartoons in the 70s started that free jazz stuff.
Yeah,
a lot of it started with
his album is he had one called Free Jazz.
Yeah, he did.
Crazy.
But his that I think that was the next album after this one, but his this is his third album. It was the first one on Atlantic, and the first one to expose his crazy free jazz kind of style to the masses. The Shape of Jazz to Come. Ornette Coleman.
That's got Lonely Woman on it, right? Is that one?
Does that have Lonely Woman on it? I just listened to the music. Yeah, Lonely Woman. Eventually, Peace. Focus on Sanity, which was originally going to be the title of the album. Congeniality, right. Chronology. I have an Ornette Coleman playlist. It's just hours long, and I'll just put it on and just leave it on all day.
Crazy stuff.
Yep. So got to have some jazz, and if I'm going to have jazz, it's going to be Ornette Coleman, and it's going to be that album. So there you have it.
You have to turn me on to some of that one.
It's usually.
Mr. Clean, I'm compiling a playlist with each of our choices, so you'll have all these.
It'll be on there right after Heaven and Hell, probably. But
no, but if you hit random,
Yeah. I think I've had it on Mr. Clean before, and you've been like, "What the fuck are you listening to?" So.
Yeah.
But anyways,
my tastes are not as broad as Snags and stuff.
Yeah. I'll listen to all kinds of crazy shit. But all right, so that's it.
So when they weren't singing about Syd Barrett and they weren't singing about Roger his dad, they made a really cool album about society and about people, and it was Pink Floyd and Animals.
Love that record.
That's a great album.
It's a really freaking great album, very, very underrated. it's really just 3 songs with a little
intro at the beginning and outro
at the end. But you start with Dogs, and it's just freaking crunching. I mean, the guitar work, the solos, they're so tight at that point. They haven't done The Wall yet. They've just come off of Wish You Were Here and Dark Side of the Moon. They are just tight as can be. And Pigs is a heavy. That's where Pink Floyd started going from like being psychedelic to a little bit heavy. And that period right there, that's some of the first Floyd that I ever really got to listen to. One of my
Richard Wright does so many crazy keyboard shit on this record. It was so good.
Yeah, everybody is just crushing it on that record. David Gilmour, he's more prominent on there. But you go from Dogs, Pigs, and then Sheep, just album about humanity, really, and it's true. So much of it is so true. But I Pink Floyd's one of my top bands ever of all time.
Sure.
I had to have a Pink Floyd album, and that was really, really tough because I wanted to put Dark Side of the Moon. I wanted to Wish You Were Here. I wanted to
Metal is such a great fucking Pink Floyd.
I didn't know what to do, but
Echoes,
Animals was the one I could not. Song about people, they call it Animals. So so I like that one, and that was my Pink Floyd album for the top 10.
That's a killer album. Love that album.
All right, so I guess it's my go. This is my number 5. I would say I had to choose this Ozzy tribute because it's a great way to get all of Blizzard of Oz live. Randy Rhoads never sounded better than hearing him do all this stuff live. So the Ozzy tribute album came out in '87. This takes me back to high school, cruising around with Snags. This was like the tape that everybody, and it was funny is there were girls that we knew that were more Deadheads, but suddenly this album came out and they're all about the Ozzy tribute album. We're like, yeah, okay. And like they'd always been into Ozzy or something.
You talking about Varian? Did you know Varian Beecham?
Yeah.
This is a girl that one time she called. We were at somebody's house. I forget who it was, but and this is before cell phones, kids. We only had landlines. So if you call a phone number, you're calling a location. She calls the house, and we're all planning to hang out, and I forget whose house we were at, but the person who lived at the house is the one who answered the phone. And the first thing Varian asked was, "Where are you?"
Where are you? In my kitchen?
I'm at the fucking house that you just called. That was
you called me on my landline, bitch.
Yeah, she was a deadhead. That's probably who you're talking about. Anyway.
Yeah, but what's funny though, when I hear this album, I also think about Snags and I going over to this guy's house. He was into Ozzy, and he had this tape as well, and that's how I knew him. We were into music, and but he had a VCR, and Snags and I went over there with a copy of
Birth of a Nation. Is this
Birth of a Nation?
So Birth of a Nation is a 4-hour silent
silent movie
by D.W. Griffith, and it was the first. A lot of editing techniques were first invented and used on Birth of a Nation. So as film geeks, we had to watch Birth of a Nation, and
we'd only seen little snippets of that movie, so we wanted to see the whole movie.
I worked at Blockbuster Video, so I take it home, and our VCR is broken. This is when me and him and this cat Mike had a crash pad a year after high school, and we couldn't watch it at our house. He's like, I know somebody who has a VCR. We go over to this poor fucker's house. I get off work at like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, so we show up, and his VCR is in his bedroom,
Yeah.
And, you know, we watched like 2 hours and he's like, guys, I gotta
He's
go.
trying to stay awake, and we're watching the silent film that's got 2 more
We're like
hours
sitting
left.
on his floor in front of his TV. He's in
Like,
bed.
I gotta go to work
like,
tomorrow. We're
guys,
like, hold on,
I
just
gotta
a
get
couple
up.
more
We're like,
hours.
yeah, it's almost over, dude.
It's only
And-
just a
and
couple
we're
more hours. Literally,
Steady
it
watch.
was 2 separate VHS tapes that were each 2 hours long.
So when we finally left, he's like, I'm never, ever come back over
Don't
here.
ever call me again about
Yeah.
anything. Anyways, yeah, so that cat had the tribute album. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. All right. My next album is if I'm on a desert island, I can't go the rest of my life without hearing some Lennon and McCartney. You know, I gotta have a Beatles disc with me. And my favorite era of the Beatles is supposedly after Paul was dead. So if Paul really died around Sgt. Pepper, his replacement was an even better fucking songwriter, because all my favorite Beatles albums are with the replacement Paul.
There was
and
no replacement.
Fucking White Album, Abbey Road, and Let It Be are my 3. It's just they had done everything, and they were just starting to loosen up and fucking rock. And to me, that's the best.
That's them becoming the Butterfly. You know,
they just really were. And so, and I had a really hard time, especially choosing between Let It Be and the White Album. And finally, I'm like, you know what? The White Album's a double album. I get more Beatles. I can take more Beatles with me. I'm taking that. And so, back in the USSR, Dear Prudence, Glass Onion, Obla Di Obla Da, Wild Honey Pie, Bungalow Bill, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Oh, fuck. Hold on. Where to go? Happiness is a Warm Gun. Would not be allowed.
Oh, so you chose the White Album?
I ended up choosing the White Album, yeah.
Okay.
Because it's more
two albums, man.
Yeah, you basically get 2 albums, and I lost my place, so hang with me while I get back to that fucking wiki page. And of course, Helter Skelter. You got to have Helter Skelter for all kinds of reasons.
Back in the USSR.
I already mentioned that. Yeah. Blackbird's a great one. Rocky Raccoon. Don't pass me by.
Don't pass me by. I love it.
Why Don't We Do It in the Road? Fucking rockin' song.
Yeah.
Birthday, rockin' song. Your Blues. I'm not gonna read every fucking song off of here, but
no, but I liked I'm So Tired off of there. That was great.
I do like the single version of Revolution the most, but Revolution #1 is on here. Unfortunately, the worst Beatles song is on here too, Revolution #9.
But you can always uncheck that one.
Oh yeah, that part I'll carve it out of the album so I don't have to listen to it or whatever. Yeah. If I'm bringing digital files, I'll just delete that one. But anyways, that's my next one. White Album, Beatles, gotta have it.
Yeah, I had Abbey Road. Abbey Road was on #5 on my honorable mention list. Yeah. You're right, man. They were just stringing one song after another.
Yeah.
They couldn't do any wrong. I mean, what a role to be on, man. The Beatles.
I remember one time you told me, you're like, man, I've been marathoning all the Beatles albums. It's amazing how many hits they had. And I'm like, yeah, that's the fucking point, dude. That's the point.
Every song. And as I go through life, I've lately, within the last like 10, 15 years, you'll randomly run into somebody that goes, I hate the Beatles. And I'm like, what? I suddenly don't know you. I don't,
Yeah. I get it. If it's
people like that, I hit them with my truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's 1976 and you're a brand new punk rocker, okay, I get it. You had to hate everything. But then eventually, when you grow up, you realize
kids that
the Beatles are like oxygen. You have to have
20
oxygen
right now, and I'm like, okay, well, you're an idiot. You don't.
They're listening to crap.
Yeah.
Most of them.
All right, so I'm up.
Go ahead, Mr. Clean.
What do you got?
Maybe not everybody likes an underdog, but I do, and I like Dave Mustaine. And when he got thrown out of Metallica,
the worst get the fuck out of the band story ever.
He was pissed off.
He was.
Came back with a vengeance, and Rust in Peace is one of my favorite albums. It is so tight, and the guitar work on Rust in Peace is just, starting with Holy Wars and going into Hangar 18 and Take No Prisoners. It just keeps going up. It's like, how can this band do this? How can these guys do this with his guitars? I know it wasn't just him. There was other people, playing the guitar. I forget the other.
No, but this is called one of the best thrash. I mean, it's top, top tier thrash record for sure.
I love me some Rust in Peace, and I love him giving the middle fingers to Metallica, which didn't make anything in my top 10, although a bunch of honorable mentions, with Master of Puppets.
I had too many that I had to. Too many that I had to go with.
I know Silky's going to have one in here, but when I got to admit, I haven't listened to Megadeth as much as Metallica at all. But when I have put it on, I've always been taken aback. It's like whatever hair I have left literally gets blown back, especially on those early albums with the aggressiveness of Mustaine's riffage. And I'm not even talking about the solos. I'm talking about the fucking the riffage. Is fucking aggressive.
Dave's whole motivation was we have to play faster than Metallica.
Yeah, and they did, and good songwriting too.
Yeah, and if you read the book that Dave wrote, they were strung out on heroin from day one. I'm like, how did you make such amazing records? And you had like a $10 million an hour habit with
that
heroin.
goes back to the jazz days with Charlie Parker dropping all these classic albums, strung out on heroin. John Coltrane.
It just sucks that
it's a long-standing tradition.
Yeah. So
but now I like me some Megadeth, and that's my favorite. That's my favorite one, and he's an underdog. And
I like that you didn't say Peace Cells.
No, I don't like that one as much. It's a good album, but it's Rust in Peace for me.
Yeah, Rust in Peace is epic. Their newest one's good. They're great. I like Dave.
Silky keeps up with all the latest from a lot of these bands, and he hips me to the. You got to check out the new fucking Anthrax. It's good. So what do you got there, Silky?
All right. So my let me make sure this is on. Yeah. My number 4 is Deep Purple's In Rock. Just a solid slab of concrete to just bash you over the back of the skull. 1970, Ian Gillan. The Perps were on fire. Speed King. They had a single, Black Knight. The B-side was Living Wreck, which was on In Rock. Child in Time. Jesus Christ. Just the vocals. Child in Time, dude. Fuck.
nailed it.
So Deep Purple in Rock. A tremendous record for me. Many memories with that one.
That band was just
that's my number 4.
They were so fucking tight back then.
Oh yeah, dude.
They really
especially
were.
Then.
Yeah,
especially then.
All right. So my next one is right after the Beatles. Really for me, because it's higher on the ranking, and now we really are. These are probably my top 3 albums in order. And I like this band better than the Beatles, contrary to popular opinion, the fucking Stones. Rolling Stones. I listen to them more than I listen to the Beatles. I love both bands, but, Rolling Stones, Exile on Main Street is higher on my list than the White Album.
That one. That's awesome.
I mean, it's just the Stones at their greasiest fucking ragged glory,
Yeah.
They were steal a phrase from Neil Young.
They had exiled themselves from England.
Yeah,
and
they're running
taking up a chateau in France
for a noble cause. They're running from the tax man,
Yeah.
And
they had a whole circus of people and
Yeah.
people doing drugs, drinking, drugging. Brian
Oh, there's
Jones'
just-
son
yeah.
showed up as a little kid. People were freaking out how much he looked like Brian Jones during the recording of Exile.
Yeah, it's just a fucking great fucking album. Double album, just packed with great songs. I'll run some of them off. Rocks Off, Rip This Joint, Shake Your Hips, Tumbling Dice, Sweet Virginia, Torn and Frayed. And some of these songs too. I can remember driving around when I had that. I think at the time I had a Honda, my little 4-disc player in the back, and I would sometimes I just fill it up with these Grand Slam era Stones albums, or maybe the first few Ron Wood albums.
Yeah, those are good too.
And just especially, you're in your 20s, you're going out partying all night, you wake up on Sunday morning and you're kind of hungover and foggy, and you need to run some errands or something. You get in your car and you just slap on some. The Stones is just great hangover music, man. Coming Down Again, to quote a song from a different album, but it's just that kind of Ragged Glory. Sweet Virginia and Torn and Frayed are right in that alley. God damn, Sweet Black Angel, Loving Cup, Happy.
Loving Cup is tremendous. Oh, Happy.
Give me a little drink from your loving cup.
Just
Happy. And I fall down drunk.
This is the rock and roll Bible, really.
It really is. Ventilator Blues, Let It Loose, All Down the Line, Stop Breaking Down, Shine a Light, and it ends with Soul Survivor. The original release does.
Yeah, that's tremendous.
The deluxe version has some outtakes. They brought Mick Taylor back to slap down some leads on some songs they never finished. But God damn, man. Even just the original version of that album, I can't live without it, man. It's got to be on my island.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And on the island it is.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Clean.
So, as y'all know, I'm not into jazz. I'm not into pop. I'm not into hip hop.
I'm a rocker.
Yes. I can't tell you how many times this cat has heard something I'm listening to and been like, why are you listening to this? It doesn't rock.
But I can say this. Woe to you, O earth and sea. The devil sends the beast with wrath.
Great fucking album.
Because he knows the time is short. Let him lack understanding reckon the number of the beast. So Iron Maiden,
which is a human number.
Iron Maiden's one of my favorite bands of all,
Yeah, that era especially.
And Number of the Beast. I wrestled with the first album from Iron Maiden,
Yeah, I
Peace
really
of Mind and Power Slave.
I could not get Maiden in my top 10. I had this locked in. I love that you picked your picks have been really, really good.
I just can't live without 22 Acacia Avenue and with Hallowed Be Thy Name.
Prisoner.
And The Prisoner and The Number of the Beast and
Yeah, and
songs on that album.
There's a what I'm going to do for you on the playlist is Total Eclipse was supposed to be on Number of the Beast.
Yep.
And it was the B-side, and they killed the Gangland ends up being on the record, and that's not what Steve Harris wanted. So I'm going to add.
He's doing it for you and for Steve Harris.
No, I got Total Eclipse, man. That's a great song.
Yeah, I'm going to add that just after your Number of the Beast. So it'll be right on there because that's just, you got to have that. I said it.
There you go.
That's awesome.
So now it's on there right after. And I may edit it and move it up so that Hallowed Be the Name is still the last song. That's what we'll do.
That Hallowed Be Thy Name, man. That's usually like the closing song in their concert.
Yeah.
And it's just freaking incredible.
Yeah, they God, that was the best, man. They were phenomenal. They still are. They're still so good live.
They're rocking out, man.
for sure. Anything else on Number of the Beast?
No, I mean, it's not a real long album. It's got so many great songs on there. Yeah, you got the guitars, everybody on that band, we all know all the Nico and
Dave
Adrian
Murray.
and
Dave Murray is
Clive Burr
just
was the drummer on that one, though.
Clive. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
just
but he did a good job.
Yeah, Dave Murray and Adrian Smith just gel so well. It's the sound for Maiden. And I feel the riffage on Number of the Beast just continues now. The recognizable Maiden riff is still there.
Yep.
Great stuff.
Yep.
That was not too long after I discovered those Motley Crue albums. I'm watching this local music video show, and this crazy fucking video comes on. This band, cool looking bands playing this awesome song live. One of those songs that gives you chills. And this giant fucking Muppet thing is running around on the stage, wreaking havoc. And there's all these clips from old horror movies. Blew my fucking mind. And it was Number of the Beast. Good God, that video, man.
Eddie.
I was like, I instantly, all the trauma of having to endure an era where Flock of Seagulls was the big band just got erased.
There was a drought. There was a drought in the early 80s, and Snags and I both were starving for riffage.
And you'd come across these bands. It was like a oasis in the middle of the desert.
Flock of Seagulls and
they weren't like we've said this before. These bands that we just Rush and ACD, they weren't bands. They were the reason we got up in the morning. They were everything. In the magazines, in the shopping malls, to quote Rush, it was everything.
Legends.
Yep.
Epic. Yeah. So my number 3 was AC/DC Highway to Hell, Bond's farewell record.
Nice.
Friday
I almost picked that. That was almost picked by me.
Friday nights at the roller rink. There's one story specifically with Highway to Hell. I had a bomber jacket, like with the shiny material and then the tight cuffs. All I can think of is like a flak jacket, and it was all black, and the back had the AC/DC logo on it. And
that's
nice.
Oh,
dude, I wore that thing. I was 10 or 11 years old, and I just in my day, and you can relate to this, Snags. It was like the bad kids listened to AC/DC. Like you listened to AC/DC and learned how to smoke a cigarette.
Or all the stoners listened to that shit. All the preppies were listening to Flock of Seagulls and Men at Work and fucking the Call and the Fix and the Fall and whatever the fuck these bands were.
Whatever the fuck that shit was.
INXS.
INXS, REM.
REM was good.
Fuck. But so there was a story. My mother had given me like $20 to go to the roller skating rink, or $10, something. It was a lot of money. And I go over to my friend's house innocently thinking that we're going to go to the roller skating rink. And the dad, somebody says, hey, we're not going to go to the roller skating rink. And I'm like, fuck, I don't want to go back home. She's not going to be looking for me till 10, 11 o'clock at night. So I said, well, hey, why don't I buy all the kids slushies and shit, And the dad is like, well, I'll drive you up to 7-Eleven. And so we go in, and I got all this money, and I'm like, I have to spend it or she's going to know that I didn't go to the roller skating rink. That was my mindset. And so everybody's got their icy slushy drink and big league chew. And, I think I bought a circus magazine or something, spent all this money. And then we all hang out in the front yard at this guy's house in the neighborhood. And, it's almost 10, and I walk through the neighborhood much like an Iron Maiden album cover, just the street lights, and I'm like looking for Eddie and shit and trying to get home. And a few weeks go by, and for some reason, my mom went over to this guy's house, I think to pick me up or something. And the dad comes out and goes, "Hey, it was real nice of Brett to buy all the kids candy and shit." I was like, what the fuck, man? And I got busted,
No good deed goes unpunished.
Busted.
Yeah.
And how does that have to do with Highway to Hell?
I'm on a highway to hell. That's
all right. Did they play it at the roller rink? Did they play Highway to Hell at the roller rink?
They did, actually. They would play Touch Too Much.
Nice.
I remember hearing Girls Got Rhythm or Touch Too Much. But this whole record, man, Highway to Hell, Walk All Over You, Girls Got Rhythm, Beating Around the Bush. If You Want Blood, You've Got It. Just fuck, man.
You can't go wrong with Bon Scott. The cat never.
Prowler.
Even Love Song, the one like pop tune they did, it's still Bon Scott. I don't skip it when it comes on.
No, it's all good, man.
Yeah.
So that's my number 3.
All right. So my next one, and we talked about this one on the Zeppelin episode, but I can't be on a desert island without me some Zepp. And if I'm gonna only choose one Zeppelin album, it's gonna be fucking Physical Graffiti, my favorite fucking Zeppelin album of all time. And again,
your third double album.
Yeah, got it. Quantity, man.
See what you're doing, man.
Quantity and quality. Notice I didn't cheat and pick any box sets. But
so Physical Graffiti and Exile on Main Street to me are the Old and New Testament rock and roll Bible.
Yeah, for sure.
Fuck.
And so a lot of good songs. We talk about it on the Zepp ep. Go back and listen to the Zepp ep. But Wonton Song, fucking Kashmir, Trampled Underfoot, which is my favorite Zepp song of all time. Houses of the Holy, Custard Pie, and My Time of Dying. Fucking Kashmir is on here. Yeah.
10 Years Gone.
Yeah.
It's so good, man.
It's just
Graffiti is so damn good.
An amazing album. And
not
much else to
Jesus Christ.
We rave about it in the Zepp app.
Oh yeah.
So, great fucking.
All right, Mr. Clean, what's your number 2?
So in no certain order, and this is a really hard one to do, but I gotta have some Judas Priest in my top 10.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really tough, wrestling match. But no album makes me feel just as good, as Screaming for Vengeance. When you listen to Screaming for Vengeance,
such a great album. Love that album.
So well produced, and it's their best album. I mean, they're just so tight. It's a rockinest album. Every song on there is fantastic and rocking. They didn't like, we're not going to go and do any blues on this album. We're just going to freaking rock and leave our blues behind. And it's just incredible. I mean, Rob, and he screamed like on that Screaming for Vengeance. He's like towards the end where he's like, scream, man. I mean, it's like he holds that scream, so long. I just listened to that over and over again.
Pain and Pleasure
Pain and Pleasure. Take these chains off.
I consider Devil's Child to be their AC/DC song. I can just hear. I could hear Bon Scott singing that one. It's a killer.
It's a good song, man.
Killer
Devil's Child is awesome.
I believe
just him screaming, "I can't take it anymore."
And Electric Eye.
Electric Eye is and I said this on our Priest episode. It's a masterpiece of metal songwriting. It's just flawless.
So y'all knew Priest was going to be, in my top 10, and I struggled between Stained Class and Sad Wings of Destiny, and of course my favorite live album, Unleashed in the East. But I went with Screaming for Vengeance because if you put an album on, it makes you just feel awesome.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Killing Machine and Stained Class. I mean, just it's almost impossible to only pick one Priest record.
It is.
But yeah, that's a great one, man. So my number 2, I had to go with Led Zeppelin 2.
Nice.
The Mighty Zeps, the Brown Bomber, whatever you want to call that record. Heartbreaker, Living, Loving, Made. She's Just a Woman. It's a great. That was my favorite song as a kid. I love that one ended and the other one just started right away.
Yep.
Fuck, man.
That was on the radio all the time,
Oh,
man.
yeah, it was. Yeah. I mowed lawns in my neighborhood, and I had like $10, and my dad had come into town, and I hadn't seen him, and I asked him, it's this. I mean, this is kind of like, he's your dad, and you haven't really done much with him, and you're a little bit older, so you kind of know what's going on. I was like 7 or 8, and I'm like, could we go to the record store? And my dad's like, yeah, I'll take you. And I had money, and I went and I bought Led Zeppelin 2, and I could not wait to listen to this was my cassette. It was a big deal. So that album's still,
and of course, Whole Lot of Love is a terrible song. It's terrible listening to on earphones where that sound is going.
Oh yeah, dude,
back and forth, and you're
tremendous.
Like, whoa!
Yeah, it blows your doors.
It blows your doors, man. Led Zeppelin,
especially after some weed.
Freaking incredible. Right? When you're 8.
Yeah, when you're 8.
Yeah, I was raised by hippies.
I know. Or wolves.
Yeah, both of us. Oh my God. How not to raise a child.
That's a killer album, though. Good choice.
Yeah.
All right, so we're at the number one albums now, huh? My number one album of all time, which has already been mentioned by old Silky, fucking Ace of Spades by Motorhead.
Oh, you should pick another Motorhead album.
I'm not gonna pick another. Fuck
it's
you.
His album, man.
I'm not picking another one. I'm not changing my number one album just because your ass mentioned it already. Fuck you.
Well, now we're only doing 29 albums then.
So what? Stop being so obsessive compulsive. Fucking
stop being so bitchy. Go ahead. Keep talking.
Ace of Spades, Motorhead.
Lemmy is God.
First of all, it's the best Motorhead album. Motorhead is the best band on the planet. And coincidentally, the guy who founded Motorhead is my Messiah. So he's the leader. Yeah, he's our Lord and Savior. So that all just works out, Just a killer album. We already mentioned all the tracks on there. They'd already done Overkill and Bomber. I must have been mind-blowing when this album came out because the first Motorhead album, the first one that was released, Motorhead, is a good album. You can hear them kind of getting it together. Overkill must have just fucking, and Bomber must have just blown people's fucking minds,
Oh yeah, I mean the fact that their first album, the record label didn't know what to do with it, so they shelved it.
On Parole, that's why I said the first album was released, which is good because it's not the best album. It's okay.
No.
It's them as a pub rock band, and they repurposed some of those songs and re-recorded them. But I would just imagine after the double whammy of Overkill and Bomber, just people thinking, wow, this band they have really made their statement. They're at their apex. There's no way they can outdo those two albums. And then they just drop Ace of Spades on your head.
Yeah,
holy
fuck, dude.
Fuck, man.
Lemmy was just on fire, dude.
The best album ever recorded by anybody of all time ever. Period. End of story.
I don't know about that because I have my next album too, and I think it's better than that one.
What you got?
What you got?
So you knew we weren't going to have a top 10 island with Andy without Tool on the island.
I knew you'd have a Tool album. Yeah. Now Ace of Spades is better, but go ahead, humorous.
No, I don't think so because the album Anima is fucking Tool at its best. They're raw, and there were, one Lateralist. It wasn't 10,000 Days, but it also wasn't Undertow. It was just the right Tool at the right time, and that album
for the right job
rocks out. I mean, there's so many. I mean, Stink Fist, Eulogy. Eulogy is my favorite song. It's only 8.5 minutes long. But then it just keeps going and keeps going. 46 into Jimmy, Push It, Enema, the song Enema, and then you're about worn out by the time that album you get through Enema, and then there's a 13.5-minute Third Eye song at the end, which is just fucking incredible, mind-blowing.
With Bill Hicks, guest quoting Bill Hicks.
Doesn't that have negative ions where it's just
negative ions in between Enema and Third Eye? Yeah. It's my favorite Tool album, but man, it's not my favorite by much. They got every one of them I like, love a lot, but that album is going with me on my island.
I'll have you know, Mr. Clean.
I tried to take it.
Every time I get in the car now, El Condor only wants to hear Tool.
Who's that wants to hear it?
El Condor.
El Condor, who makes cameo appearances sometimes.
Okay.
He only wants to hear Tool when we get in the car.
Nice.
Because of the playlist.
The playlist that I made for the show. Yeah. He's like, put that Tool playlist on. I'm like,
we also one of our other frequent co-hosts, Mike. I think it was after the Tool episode, or maybe it was after the Priest episode. He goes, "Man, that Mr. Clean, he's pretty cool. He's my favorite co-host." So you've got your own fans out there.
Thank you, man. I got one fan. I'm a freaking influencer.
There you go.
Hey, man, Joe Rogan better watch the fuck out. That's all I'm saying.
That's right, goddamn.
Watch out, Joe.
Yeah.
I'm chipping away with your audience.
So my number one, and this goes all the way back, Black Sabbath's Paranoid.
I knew there was going to be an Ozzy Sabbath on here. I can't believe Metallica. You didn't have a Metallica album in your top 10?
Well, Master of Puppets was like the first thing I thought of, but the 10 I've listed are really the 10 that chose me. Those are the ones that always seem to.
So before he gets into this, you cats have to know that old Silky was saying we should tell each other what albums. It's a confusing thing here, but what albums each of you guys remind me of, right? Whatever.
No, you're gonna fuck it up because you're an asshole.
Well, it's my specialty. But this is gonna tie back to Metallica. I'm telling a good story.
The thought was, as we're picking our 10 favorites,
he's gonna tell some irrelevant shit that doesn't matter. Go ahead.
What would I'm now putting a post-it over your.
We're on a Zoom call, and he. Explain this so I can get back to my Metallica.
The thought was, that has nothing to do with my choice, but you want to talk about another album.
Yes.
The thought was, as you pick your 10 that you think are that are you, what might somebody else that knows you, maybe they think of an album, you're like, oh shit, I didn't think of that.
Right.
Right. So that was my thought. It was
so the album you remind me most of is fucking Ride the Lightning, because I remember when you were first getting into Metallica and just blasting that. I know Master of Puppets is your favorite Metallica album, but anyways, I'm shocked they're not in your top 10. Major fucking earthquake, but keep going. Hip us to your number one.
So just Sabbath Paranoid. I think it's the it kind of sealed the deal for the heavy metal genre. I know Zeppelin had already had 2 records, but I feel like where Zeppelin 2 was going, Paranoid really hit the mark with, and everything after Paranoid. I think a lot of people, Deep Purple, In Rock came out in 1970. I just feel like a lot of people heard Paranoid and went, fuck, that's it. That's what we're trying to get to. And
War Pigs is a masterpiece.
My whole childhood was like the Sabs, Zepp, and the Perps. That was all encompassing. You listen hungrily to everything, but I would continuously return to the Sabs. This collection of 7 songs, Rat Salad, but 7 songs in the instrumental. We would write these song titles on desks, shoes. I had a pair of shoes that I'd written War Pigs on the sole of. I read War Pig. We had a class in high school where we had to write a poem, and I wasn't going to do that, and so I just read the lyrics to War Pigs.
And you said you wrote it?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
He was like, that is amazing. She was like teared up, like, that's about Vietnam. You need to, she wanted to put that in some state thing. And
competition.
I was like, oh, I can't do that. That's very personal.
I'm too humble.
That's very personal. I can't flip that.
Fucking
That's
hilarious.
Shit, man.
You should have just said your nickname was Ozzy.
Yeah.
No.
You're like,
My
that's
nickname's
just
Ozzy.
cool.
Just say it's written by Oz, although Geezer, I guess Geezer wrote it. But
I knew if she had
That's not even my
published,
good stuff. Wait till
if
you
she
get
had
a
entered
steroid
that,
bump.
I'd have been busted. It would have been bad. So.
that's hilarious. Great story. All right, so that's all of our discs. I think we should just each run down our honorable mentions without talking about the albums too much.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mention the honorable mentions, and I will. I've got my list here. Hold on, let me bring it back up again. My honorable mentions list. The albums that I'm gonna miss on my fucking this fucking sound effects needs to keep playing. Keep fucking playing. Oh, great. The fuck.
Ocean.
Well,
That's
for
the
the
best.
playlist, do you want to throw one of your honorable mentions on here so we have 30?
Let's just have 29. I don't care. Whatever.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do, bro. All right.
Well,
It needs to be
throw one
29.
out. You can get an extra album on here.
Well, it's if I can just, if it's got to be one, it's going to be "Let the Dominoes Fall" by Rancid. So put that
Okay.
on there. So here's my honorable mentions: Ramones' first album, Van
Great
Halen 1, "Let the Dominoes Fall" by Rancid, Howlin' Wolf. It's just called Howlin' Wolf, but it's got a picture of a rocking chair on it. It's
Yeah, that's
also,
the first one. Yeah, that's the first album.
also known as the Rockin' Chair album. It's
That's
actually
great.
I think the second album. The first two albums were just compilations of singles,
Singles. Yeah.
but it's got Wang Dang Doodle and Spoonful and Backdoor Man, just classic stuff.
Great shit.
London Calling by The Clash, Walk Among Us by The Misfits, Electric Ladyland, Jimi fucking Hendrix, who I'm gonna miss when I'm on my island.
Yep.
Idlewild South, Allman Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Fillmore East is great, but I like the track listing on Idlewild South better. And then Rock and Roll, which is it's the second album to just be called Foghat, and it's got a picture of a rock and a
dude.
roll like a little biscuit, and
Yeah.
so people call it Rock and Roll. Foghat album, great fucking album. Those are my honorable mentions. Mr. Clean, hit us with your honorable mentions.
So it's so hard to do this top 10, but I'm sorry,
Yeah.
honorable mentions. You cannot come to my
These are
Bikini
the albums you're
Atoll
gonna miss the most.
with me. These are the albums I will miss the most.
What do you got?
Appetite for Destruction.
Oh hell yeah.
Guns N' Roses is just an album. Every freaking song sounds so good. Van Halen 1, just like
Great.
Stags.
That's the album that reminds me of you. There's
Yep.
a story of you guys riding around in high school
Riding
cranking
in the
that
bus
album.
with Charlie, the bus driver, around the
Yeah,
track.
yeah.
Stained Class, Judas Priest. I love me some Operation Mindcrime from Queensryche.
Oh yeah.
I thought that album was just insane. Peace of Mind from Iron Maiden, Abbey Road, Master of Puppets, Led Zeppelin 1. That's so hard to leave Led Zeppelin. I can't believe Led Zeppelin didn't make it on my island, but Led Zeppelin 1, holy shit. That's a masterpiece.
Oh yeah.
Ride the Lightning,
Days of my youth. Ride the Lightning. Yeah, good album.
older display of power from
Oh
Pantera.
hell yeah.
Freaking hard to leave them off the island, but sorry, it's probably better if they're not on the island because there would be a big fight or something.
Right.
Of course, I had Let There Be Rock on there. Boston's title album.
First album. Oh, that's a great one.
Freaking great album. Dark Side of the Moon and Pink Floyd The Wall were my honorable mentions, and there's 1,000 more. Blue Oyster Cult. Just I can't.
Oh, yeah.
I could keep going, but
Yeah, yeah.
gotta draw a line.
You gotta draw the line. to quote Aerosmith, right?
Yeah, I was exactly I was about to say
Walking
that.
the dog, man.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
just-
Aerosmith, that's a
Right.
hard band to leave out of this discussion. Really
Yeah,
good.
but they did Love in an Elevator. Once you do something like
No,
that,
that wasn't them. That was
I know, but it
clones.
ruins the fact that
They were
that's
abducted by aliens and replaced by
okay, man. But
robot clones.
that didn't do them any favors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
70s Aerosmith is hard to beat.
Boys in
though.
the Attic should be in here somewhere. but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not.
All right, Silky, what do you got?
So
Honorable
my
mentions.
my honorable mentions would have been any of the David Lee Roth Van Halen albums, Allman Brothers, Fillmore East, first Skinner albums with Ronnie Van Zant, really any Priest, Metallica, Master of Puppets, Elvis Presley Sunrise, which was a collection of just the Sun House songs.
Sun Records. Sun Records.
Sun House. Jesus Christ. Chuck Berry's A Great 28 is a fantastic collection. Zach Wilde's Book of Sighs is one of my I used to play the shit out of that like Snags would listen to Mississippi John Hurt. Social Distortion, Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell, and Iron Maiden's first album. Really, those first 5 Iron Maiden albums, those would definitely be thought of.
Not to go wrong.
Yeah.
I left off one, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony.
Oh,
Sure.
very nice.
No, I'm serious.
Oh,
Keep
really?
it classy.
There
Take
you
some
go.
mushrooms- take some mushrooms sometime and listen to Beethoven's Ninth.
Oh, well, there you go. Sweet.
That's a dude that was deaf, pretty much deaf, and
Yeah.
wrote. I mean, it's a freaking masterpiece, and it rocks as far
Yeah.
as like symphony goes. Beethoven.
Beethoven does not fuck around.
Now Beethoven's
Don't
the
fuck
fifth.
with
Everybody
Beethoven.
knows, but the ninth
Yeah.
is freaking jamming. And
Oh yeah.
I'll listen
I-
to a audiobook
just
on like the
that one.
history of classical music, and some of those cats were just as fucking crazy as rock and rollers. You know,
oh yeah, they
just
were crazy.
insane shit going down. But
Beethoven could clear a room with a beer fart.
there
He
you go.
was-
Yeah,
He was focused.
yeah. Well, there you have it. Top
yeah, he
10
would-
albums of
Beethoven would rip a nasty fart and then yell, "Did you hear that?"
Oh, there you go.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
That was hilarious. So, anyways,
Yeah.
top 10 albums of the 3 people with the best taste in the world.
That's you really can't get any better. And this
If you were
playlist has
stuck
been
on
sent.
Desert Island.
I called the playlist "Caught in a Mind Riot," with the thought of just the stress of trying to come up with these 10. You know,
Oh yeah,
I thought it was, and it's funny
Like
that
it.
Mr. Clean chose the record. So
there you go.
That's a badass record, man.
it is. It is. But all
All
right.
right. So we got more shit planned. We got our shit booked out months ahead. I know you guys don't believe that, but it's actually true. And we got some really interesting shit coming up. So tell your friends about the podcast and stay tuned. And you got any final words, Mr. Clean, before we do our sign off?
I just wondering, like, is Mick Jagger, is he still calling, our podcast, trying to get on here? I mean, I know
We
he's been
won't
yeah,
let him on. Not since
We
he
can
did
get
the
him on at
song with
some
Lady
point,
Gaga. He's been banned. He let
Well,
Lady
I was
Gaga
in-
be on the new Stones.
We told
album,
him we'd
so-
talk to Keith, but he insists
him.
on getting on.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I guess I'm good. Maybe the thing we left off tonight was, what is your favorite like appetizer for each album to listen when you're listening to on your deserted island? Am I going to have nachos? Am I going to have wings? I'm going to have tortilla soup.
Guinness.
One day
Texas split fish and a cold beer.
There you go. Whisker biscuit and Guinness.
Yeah.
I'm all good. How about you, Silky? Any last words?
I was sidetracked with that last one.
Whisker biscuits.
I had something, but it's gone. But no, I do. I thank you, Mr. Clean, for being on. I think your choices were really good. I think Snags and I both went on.
You kept us in the
old
recent
school.
decades, which was good.
Yeah,
we were really gravitating to the classic shit, and you're bringing up
Yeah.
at least some shit that's been released in the last 10, 20 years.
yeah, and
It's good to have some of that.
it
My
was very
atoll is
refreshing
radioactive,
to have it.
man. We're gonna rock.
Yeah, I love it.
Bikini Atoll.
That's
So
right.
this playlist literally has all of our choices, and then Snags got Rancid on there, which is
Yeah.
I love that record too. That's
Yeah. It's between
Rip.
that and Out Come the Wolves, and I like Let the Dominoes Fall better. So
I'm surprised you didn't have any Clash in your top.
no, London Calling made my honorable mention, but
Yeah,
it was tough.
like
I wanted
for
to have the
me-
Ramones, I wanted to have the
Uh-huh.
Clash, I wanted to have
Yeah.
Rancid, but I was like, then
I
I'm
wanted to
giving
have
up this
I
other
wanted to have
shit.
the Misfits
Oh,
in
okay.
mine, and I just like
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah,
But my little cosmic thought was like with Snags. When I hear the Clash, I think of Snags. So
there you go.
my thought was, is there an album? Like, I reached out to a buddy. I'm like, hey, what album comes to mind if you have it on, and do I come up? And he said, well, Ozzy's Diary of a Madman. And I'm like, okay, then I'm because I was concerned my list might be missing that one thing, and somebody else goes, oh, what about?
Yeah. And you
you
didn't
know,
put it in there.
No, because I had to stay with Tribute, because
Yeah.
for me that's Randy at his best, hearing him live. You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's all we
I'm gonna
got.
have to rock that album. I don't think I've listened to Tribute. I'll have to check that out.
Oh, yeah, dude, it's epic.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it, kids.
All right.
You know,
Cool.
dude.
Peace out.
All right, folks.